So I'd like to read my oath of office that I took 15 years ago. I, Daniel Bulford, solemnly swear that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially execute and perform the duties required of me as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and will well and truly obey and perform all lawful orders and instructions that I receive as such, without fear, favor, or affection of or toward any person, so help me God. I cannot be compliant or complicit with federal policies and provincial regulations that I sincerely believe to be unlawful by every measure.
I cannot be compliant or complicit with federal policies and provincial regulations that I sincerely believe to be unlawful by every measure. These are the sorts of people that we are losing from public service. At the same time that we have the Prime Minister of Canada, still, Trudeau, retweeting this. Zach, if you will. An inclusive military is a strong military. Glad that members of our Canadian forces are now able to choose from a more inclusive list of military ranks. Let's keep working to build an institution where everyone feels welcome. This is in the middle of this week, while Ottawa is in the middle of the most massive peaceful protests that I can remember ever seeing. Trudeau is retweeting, and the Military Personnel Command of Canada is tweeting, the Canadian Armed Forces modernizes military ranks in French, where you get to choose whether or not you want to be identified by a masculine rank or a feminine rank, depending on how you're feeling that day, presumably. So this is who is being encouraged to remain in the service of the state, whereas Corporal Bulford, I hope I got that right,
at least the second time you said it that way.
Who goes back and assesses what it is that his oath of office requires of him, and understands, and I think correctly, that he cannot comply with the orders that are being handed down to him because they are not lawful. And so, Zach, please give me my screen back.
I want to make a couple points about this. First of all, I think, was it Corporal Bulford?
Yes.
What he did is extremely courageous, and he made good use of the opportunity to make his point. But I want to make a more general point about the process by which all of the people who are supposed to be protecting us are being sorted between the compliant and the refuseniks. And the point is, draconian mandates that you must comply with or leave a force of people who comply. Mm-hmm. The idea, this was always going to come down to immoral orders, right? That's the thing about authoritarianism, is eventually it delivers the immoral orders. And the question is, do you understand Nuremberg? Do you understand that you must not comply? And leaving is not necessarily the right way not to comply, because if it leaves behind a force that is compliant, from which all of the people who think from themselves have been purged, then we have a new problem. Now, I don't know how to deal with this. Obviously, the military can throw you out if it wants, right? As can any police force. But, well, I don't know what happens with unions and the like. But nonetheless, the idea that we are going to exit these positions rather than use our position in order to reject those immoral orders, right? In other words, a police officer who is given an immoral order to arrest somebody who is engaged in civil disobedience cannot comply. And that is what we should do. That is the most powerful thing we can do with our positions, is resist and just simply not engage in it. And, and I think we saw this, for example, with the tow truck drivers who refused to tow away the rigs of the convoy when they were ordered to by police.
I don't know this story.
That's what I understand, is that there was resistance to doing it. And I think the thing is, we need to start thinking in these terms.
You're talking this week in Ottawa.
Yes, beginning of the week. I think we are we are not recognizing the strategic genius of these draconian mandates that you either comply with or you're out. The point is to leave a force that does not think, that contains nobody who thinks, contains nobody who has that resistance within them. Mm-hmm. And if everything that wears a uniform is suddenly going to be filtered in this way, then you know what happens next, right? We know what that looks like.
Inclusive of those who buy batshit gender ideology and exclusive of those who disobey unlawful orders doesn't sound like a group of people who are capable of defending freedom or justice, frankly.
Right. And it happens at every level. I mean, we've also, in our own Congress in this country, we've seen almost all of the voices that you might be inclined to listen to as honorable have exited because the role of being there has been made intolerable. We've seen it in our classrooms, where the most dedicated teachers have not 100%, but in large measure been forced to leave because they have to do things in the classroom that they know have nothing to do with education and are actually counterproductive to it. Yeah. And, you know, it's a positive feedback that we have to be, we should properly be frightened of. And
let me just, we could dump on the duplicitous Ken doll all day, of course, but I think we're not going to. It's too easy a target. But which is the epithet you gave him, Prime Minister Trudeau, last week, and it seems apt. I have yet to see the pushback that makes sense against that as a name for him. Let me just say that one of the other things that he did on social media this week, while he's in hiding because he's scared of truckers, was this tweet, and you can just show it while I'm reading it, Zach, and then take off my screen again, please, quickly. Today in the House, this was February 1st. Today in the House, members of Parliament unanimously condemned the anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Black racism, homophobia, and transphobia that we've seen on display in Ottawa over the past number of days. Together, let's keep working to make Canada more inclusive.
So courageous.
Yes. So courageous.
So I think when we speak of the duplicitous Ken doll, we should always use the term with all due respect. And the amount of respect due is 0. He's not due any respect. But incidentally, just as long as we're here, Chris Martenson tweeted a video that has Trudeau's lofty, insane words overlaid over images of the protest. This is a good one. It's beautiful. So you can.
I was going to link that here in the show notes. So I didn't know that Chris had tweeted it, but it's making the rounds for sure.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but this is actual footage of the protests. People dancing in the streets, people cleaning up at garbage, people putting honorable signs up, and being actually inclusive. Hey, you know what? With the sound off on the people and Trudeau's sycophantic, hypocritical, nasty, and divisive words over the top.
Yeah, it's quite the juxtaposition.
Indeed.
Let's put it that way.
Indeed.
Over the past few days, Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior displayed by some people protesting in our nation's capital. Hate can never be the answer. I want to be very clear. We are not intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans. Tous les Canadiens ont le droit d'exprimer leur opinion ou leur désaccord avec leur gouvernement, mais ils n'ont pas le droit de menacer ou de harceler leurs concitoyens ni de propager des messages de haine. There is no place in our country for threats, violence, or hatred. So to those responsible for this behavior, it needs to stop. To anyone who joined the convoy but is rightly uncomfortable with the symbols of hatred and division on display, join with your fellow Canadians. Be courageous and speak out. Do not stand for or with intolerance and hate. And to Canadians at home, watching in disgust and disbelief at this behavior, wondering how this could have happened in our nation's capital after everything we've been through, the behavior on display this weekend does not represent you. Hateful rhetoric, abuse towards their fellow citizens, there's always a right to protest peacefully that I and others will defend fully as part of this democracy. There is not a right to incite violence, perform acts of violence, or to spew hatred. And I think anyone who is part of this group who is disgusted by what their folks protesting alongside are doing needs to step up and take responsibility, condemn these actions, and look for other ways to express their displeasure. Aux expressions de haine et d'intolérance qu'on a vues parmi ces manifestants, je veux remercier